Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Jennifer Hoglin here with Gooseberry Gardens, and today we are going to talk about propagating our herbs. All right, so today we're going to start off by talking about all the things we're going to need to do our propagating. Today we're going to talk specifically about softwood cuttings for propagating our herbs. We can also do many of these from seed, of course. However, I find this way easier and a really good way to get lots of plants. The other reason we are doing softwood cuttings instead of from seed or hardwood cuttings is because I have a whole bunch of herbs that are really starting, that I had indoors, that are really starting to get some growing on. It's spring here, early spring, and all that heat and sun coming through the windows is really allowing my plants to put on some nice green, lush growth, meaning it's the perfect time for me to take cuttings from them. All right, today we're going to do some sage here, and we're going to do some mint as well. Any of the culinary herbs would be fine propagated this way. So everything from thyme, rosemary, stevia, tarragon, even lavender, any of your culinary herbs work well this way. There are a couple, cilantro actually is probably not the best. That's a lot better from seed. A lot quicker, it's very fast germinating, so cilantro probably better from seed. Parsley kind of depends what time of year it is. This way is much better for things like French tarragon, which does not grow from seed at all. The French tarragon that you get, not the other tarragon, French tarragon, which is tastier by the way, that one you have to take from cuttings. That's the only way to propagate it, to get good French tarragon. So, things that we need today. Of course, we're going to need our plants, our herbs that we're propagating. They need to have branches on them, at least 4 to 6 inches long, but we'll get into that in a bit. We're going to need some jars, small jars to put our cuttings in water in. And if you'd like, you can also start them in soil, and we'll talk about that in a sec as well. We just need small, these are 4-inch containers with potting soil or seed starting mix. Either one will work in this application. Seed starting mix is probably preferable as we need really good drainage, but either one will work fine. All right, the other things we need are water, of course. I like to use tap water. That works just fine. I leave it out for 24 hours to allow the chlorine to off gas from it, so we don't have chlorine going into our very sensitive new plants. However, make sure it's not distilled water. We do need the minerals that we find in tap water. All those minerals are going to feed our young plants as well. Okay. Next, most important thing is something to cut off our stems with. You can use really sharp scissors, but even better is a blade of some kind. Okay. This is just a craft utility knife. Works well. Make sure it's a brand new blade. The sharper, the better. Okay. The less we damage our branches, the better they will root and get going. All right. If you're going to use scissors, as I said, make sure they're very sharp. We don't want to crush those stems. Okay. Better chance of this working if we use sharp tools. And the last thing, which is optional, not mandatory, is rooting hormone. This comes in either a powder or a concentrated liquid. And as I said, optional. Some things are going to do better with the rooting hormone. Some it will not make a difference at all. So kind of a trial and error thing. I find with herbs, you really don't need it as much, but it doesn't hurt if you do have it on hand. If you don't worry about going out and buying some. Try it without, and you should have fairly good success as well. Okay? I like to do, well, right now it's early spring, as I mentioned, and things are growing really well, but the time that I use this technique the most is actually in late summer, early fall. I use this on my herbs that are out in the garden and growing really well in the summer. And I use this technique to take a whole bunch of cuttings from each herb and start them in water indoors so that they start to grow and I can pot them up and have herbs all winter long for using in my cooking. But not only that, by the time spring comes around like now, they are at a decent size and I have enough to put out into the garden in spring again, like now. And I also have a few extras to give away to friends and family. All right. So let's step by step go through how this is going to work. All right, so we have our herbs here. This one, as I mentioned, is mint. What we are looking for is a long branch, at least 4 to 6 inches long. Okay. So we're going to start with, let's do this guy right here. Okay, here, I'll turn it. It's a little bit easier to see. So this one, we need to find where our branches are. So there's a branch right here that has 2 stems, or 2 leaves coming off here. These are called our nodes. All right. And if you look really close, you can see that at some of these nodes, we have leaves starting on other side. So when we pinch back our herbs when they're growing, and we pinch them back just above one of these nodes, each of these leaves on either side will start to grow into 2 new branches. There you go. That's why we pinch back. Okay, a little bit further down here, it's a little bit more obvious. These 2 branches here on either side of the node are starting to grow. Okay, we need to take a cutting just below one of these nodes here. All right, so if we go about 4 to 6 inches, I'm going to take a cutting right below this node right here. So I'm going to take our knife and we're going to do a nice cut right there. Okay. Voila. Now, what we're going to do with our base plant that we left here, we're going to cut this part off right here so that these 2 branches here begin to grow. All right, so we don't have a huge stump left there, just a little stump. All right, see how that looks? These 2 branches will begin to grow and brush out, okay? And we'll get 2 branches, twice as much leaves, twice as much mint for us to eat. Yay, mojitos. All right, so here we have our cutting, and we want to do this as quickly as possible because every second that we leave this, there is moisture evaporating away from this cut end. All right, so what we need to do is 1/2 to 2/3 of this stem length we need to take off the leaves. Okay, so we're going to use our knife here, and we're going to cut off these leaves, okay, right at the stem. All right, make sure you don't cut into the stem itself. You don't want to damage our stem. Okay, and we're going to leave our top ones. You might take these off, but I think we're going to leave them. All right, and then into our water this goes. All right, important thing here is to make sure that we don't have any leaves in our water, okay? That's just gonna rot to promote all kinds of fungal and other kind of issues in there. So we need to make sure all of our leaves are up out of the water. And that's it, actually. All right, so this one's ready to go. I am going to cut off 1 more, and you can definitely do more than 1 in each of these. Not a problem at all. So I'm gonna do 1 more here. Let's take this one. Let's take this one. This is a good one here. So I'm going to cut off right below this node here. Okay. And then I'm going to cut off our leaves on their stem. Okay, just slide your blade along the stem. All right, and into the water it goes. All right, so this goes into a bright lit spot, not direct sun here. Okay, that's a little too bright and too intense for them. So indirect light, but still light. All right, and we're gonna change the water out on this every 2 to 3 days or so. All right, that'll make sure the water is kept fresh and we won't get any algae or anything like that in here. Okay, So 2 to 3 days you change our water with fresh water. Sometimes what you can also do if you want to make this process go a bit faster is to put this on a heat mat. So any seed starting mat that you have, a little bit of extra heat will help make this root out even quicker. And you can also put a clear plastic bag over top, and that'll just help increase the humidity here. Just like we do with seedlings, where you put a cover on and a heat mat until you get germination, a cover and a little bit of heat is going to work wonders here as well, help the rooting process go a little bit faster. Sound good? Once you have roots in here that are about 2 inches long, 1 to 2 inches long, they're ready to pot up into soil. All right, so from here you want to go into a 4 to 6 inch pot, depending on the size of your cutting to begin with. If you already have roots on here, you want to start with potting soil, not seed starting mix. You need a little bit of nutrients in there. Okay, and then it's ready to go. You can put it in a sunny window and they can stay in there until it's time to pot them outside into your garden. All right, I also mentioned that instead of starting them in water in a jar, you can start them directly in soil. All right. Some herbs are going to do a little bit better this way. Some are going to do a little bit better in the water. There's a little bit of dissension out there among horticulturalists, which one is better. I find time-wise, it takes about the same time either way. I also find that I can fit a lot more plants into this space than I can into this space. So that's one of the reasons that I like to start in water instead of soil. Also, I have youngins and they like to watch the whole growing process. It's really neat to watch the roots grow on these. So that's why I prefer to do in water. I can just get more into a smaller space. Okay, we're going to do a quick example with our sage here. So this guy has been cut back a number of times. You'll notice I have a cut mark right here where the 2 side branches started to grow. All right, we're going to wait for these to grow out. This guy and this guy here I have left so that I can show you how to propagate these. So, and I'm also going to show you how to use the rooting hormone this time. So this is sage, and we're looking for a nice long branch, okay, 4 to 6 inches long. Here we go. And we're going to cut right below a leaf node. That is where the leaves come off of the main stem. Okay. Trying to get in here. Good. All right, and then we're going to remove our leaves off of the main stem. All right. Oops. There we go. There we go. And one more there. All right. And one more here as well. That's pretty low, and I want to make sure that's not in the water. If you are using root hormone, and as I said, it is optional, all we do is we're going to dunk about 1/4 inch here into the powder. If you're using a concentrated liquid, make sure you dilute it with water first, as indicated on your container. Follow the instructions always. Okay, and dunk the same way. Okay, so 1/4 inch in. There we go. This is a pink powder, so you can see it on there. And then we're going to give it a tap. Okay, tap off the excess. We don't want too much on there. And same as for our mint, it's going to go directly into our water. Okay, that's it. As I said, once you get 1 to 2 inches of roots on these guys, we can pot them up into our pot with potting soil. Okay, that'll take anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks depending on your herb. Well, that's it for taking soft cuttings and propagating our culinary herbs. I hope you learned something today. If you have any questions or comment, feel free to comment below, and I will see you next time. Yummy gardening, everyone.